I'm going to hit the recording button. And let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so here we are in Game 4 of White Raw versus Bomber. Game 4 is going to be going down on GSL Tal'Darim Altar. And Bomber right now is currently up 3-0. White Raw is on the ropes. We are seeing cross positions on this map as Bomber is the green Terran at the top left position. And White Raw is the red Protoss at the bottom left. Once again, this is the Bomber versus White Raw show match for $150. $150 is put up by Nation Voice. And if you guys want to compete a little bit, you can enter a contest that White Raw Nation Voice is putting up. You can win one up to... Okay, you can win a Plantronics Gamecom 1 headset. They are going to be giving away 2 of those. They're also going to be giving away 2 15-slot Ventrilo servers. Those Ventrilo servers will be lasting for 3 months. And in order to do that, you have to like both the iCCupTV and Nation Voice Facebooks, as well as, not as well as, but either like the iCCupTV and Nation Voice Facebook, or the iCCupTV and Nation Voice Twitter.
Is it either or is it both?
It's either.
Oh yeah, it's either or. So you can follow us on Facebook, or you can follow us on Twitter. You don't actually have to do both. So that's actually interesting. I didn't realize it was that way. So thanks again for Nation Voice for putting up the extra giveaways for our viewers. Shout out to Nation Voice, as they do have a representative in chat right now who's been being cool and talking to the fans. And I actually saw him answering some questions earlier, saying that they were going to be bringing in some TeamSpeak 3 servers and Mumble stuff in the future. So if you're just not a very big Ventrilo guy, there's more options down the road. So hey, that's pretty sweet. And Nation Voice, making a heart shoot with my hands.
And big shout-outs to Nation Voice for helping us get this show match together. Once again, big shout-outs to White Raw and Bomber for agreeing to play this show match. And finally, big shout-outs to Torch for coordinating everything and trying to put out some of the fires when they appeared. So the map, again, is Tal'Darim Altar. This is a little bit different from the version that you see both on the ladder. And I think that a little bit different from what we've seen in GSL recently. I know the natural expansion looks quite different from what I'm used to.
I think
just looking at Bomber's base.
I think this must be the new version that they're going to be using for next season.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I can definitely say that I like the changes. You've got the only double wide ramp rather than the triple here, and the choke leading into the natural expansion is a little bit smaller. That little piece of high ground there is, of course, for Overlords to park themselves on to try and help deal with things like bunker rushes and early timing attacks. Definitely liking the improvements to the natural expansion as well as the aesthetics. I remember some of the problems with this map originally that I had with it were the aesthetics were a little subpar as far as I was concerned, but definitely good to see that they have come quite a long ways, and I'm definitely impressed with the way that this map has came along. Speaking, of course, about this game, we do see a pretty standard opening for White Raw so far. He's going to be throwing down a second gateway right away to try and keep himself in the game in the event of any really early timing rushes or anything like that. He's going to throw down a fourth gateway.
Uh-oh, is it going to be a fifth?
4 gate.
Is it going to be trademark White Raw 5 gates? Or is it going to stick to 4? Oh, it looks like it's going to be 4. Okay. I was getting excited.
Protoss versus Terran, 4 warp gate openings have actually been gaining a lot of popularity, especially on maps like this. I know we've seen it in the GSL quite a few times. What a lot of these players do like to do is you just get 4 warp gates, apply a ton of pressure to the Terran player, and that does force the Terran player to get very defensive. And you don't really try to kill him off with the 4 warp gate. You don't go all in by any means with it. You just back it up with an expansion really quickly and just kind of screw him around with force fields and just do a bunch of damage and really just slow him down for a long time. So Pylon is here near the Zelnaga Tower. Sentries are going to be warped in to start building in energy. And hasn't morphed the other 2 warp gates yet. There he goes. And he's also making his way up to 400 minerals. Probably wants to wait until that scan finishes, and yes, he will. The Nexus is on the way. He's going to be applying a bunch of pressure with these 4 warp gates to Bomber to slow him down so that he can secure this expansion.
Problem is, Bomber, he went for a really quick expansion, and he's got 3 barracks out on the field. He's got 2 bunkers here. If White Row really wants to break this, we're going to have to see some MC-style force field breaking of bunkers going on, but there's not that many stalkers on the field. So while he will be able to force field these bunkers quite a lot, you really do need those stalkers to take them down quickly, because you don't want the sentries being your main DPS against the bunkers, or else you're going to lose a lot of them. So he's going to have to wait for a couple more warp-in cycles if he is going to be applying pressure, get some more zealots, and maybe a few more stalkers on the field before he can apply pressure. And that means that Bomber's just getting more and more time to gather units here. And while killing the bunkers here is quite nice, there's going to be a lot of bio here that might be able to just chase away the remaining units of White Raw. So this really quick expansion by Bomber might be helping him out. Oh, except he just salvaged the bunkers. Bomber, are you actually going to walk into this? Bomber. This would be really bad if he walks directly into this force. And White Raw gets off some good force fields. He salvages the 3rd bunker, and then he's going to put up a 3rd command center. Okay, so he decides he just doesn't need these bunkers to hold anymore, and he's standing right in the perfect place to get force fielded. White Raw, if you move out, you could do a bunch of damage. White Raw, are you going? White Raw, you're killing me here.
White Raw's got a 3rd base of his own on the way. And what I'm really kind of confused, and hold that thought, Bomber is going to be moving right now. Stalkers of White Raw is going to actually spot that. Still no reaction from any of these sentries here. He's still not actually pulling his entire army to deal with this. And White Raw is in pursuit. Some of the forces are going to be left behind. Their good force fields are going to go down, cutting off a lot of the army. Zealots will be able to close in and start chopping these forces down. This army does consist of mostly Marines, and that will definitely help out White Raw as he is going to be using this Guardian Shield. Reinforcements coming in right now. The sentry is going to be focused down by these Marauders. Nice job there by Bomber to try and keep that sentry count really low, especially considering those sentries had a ton of energy. But the bunkers at the natural expansion of Bomber will be rebuilt, and White Raw's just going to fall back to his position on this Zelnaga tower, realizing that he's won the battle, and now his 3rd base is going to be in a pretty good position. He doesn't really have to worry about any huge attacks coming towards it at any time soon. Might want to be looking around for something like a drop at this point, but White Raw's in a very good position. That's exactly where he wants to be, considering he's down the game.
Like, I mean, he lost so many sentries there. At the end of that fight, he only had 1 sentry left. That's a whole ton of gas. You can see he's had to reinforce the sentry count quite a bit. So his tech is actually quite slow at this point. His robotics facility not even halfway done yet, with his 3rd base up and operational. If you look up into the main of Bomber, he's already got a reactor on his starport. So he's moving up to 5 barracks. He's going to have medevacs out on the field, and the tech at this point for White Raw is just looking really nasty. That's the one thing that happens when you lose all those sentries early in the game. You have to rebuild them, so all of your gas just instantly disappears. And it's going to be quite a while before you can get Colossus or anything else on the field, because he did do a double forge. He's got that robotics bay on the way, but if Bomber goes for nice timing with the bio and the medevacs, he could catch White Raw before these Colossus pop out.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a timing window for Bomber to really get in here and do a lot of damage. He has scanned and got a good read on the army of White Raw. He does see that there is the robotics facility there, and I'm going to check his vision to see if he actually saw the robotics support bay. No, he did not.
Really?
So, like yeah, just barely missed it.
Wow.
By like an inch. And White Raw going to be trying to sneak another expansion here. Knows that with these double forge, the Colossus, and the amount of gateways that I think he is looking to get to add in the near future, he's going to need a few more geysers to do that. And he will reposition a few units, as this is kind of in the path for things to get dropped. If Bomber was to go for a drop, then
there's
it's
2
more than
medevacs full of Marauders right now flying down towards White Raw's base from the left. There are these 4 stalkers here. But if he can get these Marauders unloaded, there's still a lot of units here in the center of the map. He might be able to get in with the Marauders and do a decent amount of damage, as his army is up protecting his 4th base. So his entire defense here of his main base right now are these 4 stalkers. If Bomber can overpower this, he's actually just going to move up into the natural. White Raw will immediately warp in some Zealots, but that is a lot of Marauders. Bomber has to pull back his forces that he has completely scattered throughout the map, keep warping in more units. Some Stalkers coming from the main and from the center of the map are enough to chase Bomber away, but he was able to take down that robotics facility, so that is going to delay the Colossus count quite a bit. There's a second robotics in the main, and he's going to rebuild 2 more, going up to 3 robotics facilities on 4 bases. He really wants to get a lot of Colossus out very quickly. And Bomber is already transitioning into Ghosts with 2-1 upgrades on the way, so he's looking quite good in the tech. And he's starting the air weapons for Vikings as well to try and shoot those Colossus down much, much faster. Bomber's looking pretty good in this, as he has kept even bases this entire time as well.
Yeah, Bomber's expansion timing is absolutely impeccable, I have to say. Just taking a quick look at Bomber's vision, he doesn't know that this 4th expansion is actually here, let alone the 3rd expansion of White Raw, but he is going to be moving his forces around the map right now. He's got a good number of Vikings on the field, and this amount of Vikings already being on the field before White Raw's Colossus count is even hit 2. If an engagement happens in the next few minutes, then Bomber will have a significant advantage, as this many Vikings going up against 1 or 2 Colossus will just be able to run them over very quickly before those Colossus are able to do very much damage. There's an observer floating around the army of Bombers, getting a good amount of information. More Vikings continuing to be added on. 3 Colossus on the way right now for White Raw. Realizes that his tech was so far behind, he needs to catch up ASAP, and as well as level 2 weapons and armor being upgraded right now. More warp gates being added on. White Raw is desperately trying to get himself in the position that he needs to be to deal with the late game threats that he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, we've got another command center on the way for Bomber. He's just continually expanding. I think Bomber and Artosis could have a little bit of a love story, because he's just getting ahead and dropping expansion every time. When you're ahead, just keep getting ahead style of play here from Bomber. And oh my god, another one! This is so many command centers from Bomber. His level 1 ship upgrades just finished, so these Vikings are quite a bit more powerful. Now doing 15 damage per shot to those Colossus, and of course they do 2 shots. And that's going to help him a lot, especially since White Raw's got this triple robo. That could wind up biting him here because of the fact that Bomber is actually concentrating on the air upgrades at the same time. His level 2 infantry just finished, level 2 armor is close to following at the same time. So the upgrades from Bomber are looking really good. He's actually staying even with the Forge upgrades. And that's going to put him into a really big position, but the 2 armies are poking around. They're trying to find a good positioning. At this point in the game, positioning is very, very important. So watch these armies as they move around. White Raw doesn't want to fight out in the open, and of course Bomber doesn't want to fight in a small choke point where you can get force fielded. So we've just got a little bit of a dance going on. That's actually a good point to force field if he can get them down, but they aren't going to come down in time. EMP on the sentries. No force fields at all, but these Colossus are still doing amazing amounts of damage to the bio. White Raw finally wiping out the bio units, and then withdrawing the Colossus, focusing down the Stalkers. White Raw somehow coming out ahead in that battle, even though he got EMP'd very nicely by Bomber. He will lose almost every single Colossus, but taking down all these Vikings is going to help him a lot with this triple robo. His Colossus count is going to be up again very, very quickly, and he will be able to sweep across the map for a counterattack. Bomber looks like he's in quite a bit of trouble, so you look at the supply, he's behind by 40. He only has a couple Marauders on the field and a single Ghost. White Raw, this is your chance to make it back into the series. Once these 3 Colossus come out, this is not the time to expand. This is the time to go freaking kill him, because this is his best opportunity in the entire show match so far.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to point out before Bomber lost his entire army was that he's got a ton of orbital commands right now. So like we saw on last game on Neo Enigma, once he starts actually getting maxed, if he's actually able to live that long, he will be able to sacrifice a ton of SCVs and really start dedicating a lot of supply to actual army because he has so many mules to back himself up economically.
White Rod's
so we'll have to
maxed.
see if that actually comes into play.
White Rod's maxed, he's not moving. This is actually really, really important. He's sitting at 200
he's
supply.
For level 3.
And, yeah, I know, but he's at 200 supply. He had a 40 food advantage over Bomber, but Bomber's catching up very quickly because of the 11 mules that were just on the field. That's right, 11. Because of how many orbital commands he has.
Wow.
He's dropping another Nexus in the bottom left, and Bomber's just moments away from being maxed again, and his Vikings are starting level 3 weapons. So these Vikings, if anything, are going to be even more scary than in the last engagement. You can see Bomber sitting at 193 supply to 200. He has caught up quite nicely. He is going to withdraw as he waits for a few more units, but if we look at the unit counts, there's only 4 sentries. Oh, great EMPs! Nice blink by White Rod to try and protect his Colossus, but the Vikings are going to town on them. The bio, though, the bio is falling down so quickly. Bomber unable to keep them away from the Colossus, but still Bomber taking the win in that battle with his amazing upgrades. And a nice micro from those Marauders. He's able to completely power down White Raw. White Raw, you sat back for too long. You had a big opportunity. And now Bomber looks like he has control of this game again with the huge Viking fleet almost at level 3 weapons.
Yes, a little bit of harassment going on here at the 3 o'clock expansion of the low ground. Zealots are going to be able to clear all of the SCVs here, but Bomber does come in and clean that up, and these SCVs will be able to continue mining momentarily, and Command Center attempting to be thrown down here so they can lift over to the third base, but there's actually cannons there to block any expansion attempts there, and a pylon being warped down here at the 12 o'clock expansion as well. And if Bomber doesn't actually spot this, Zealots are going to start warping in all over the place.
Yeah, he's already been running those Zealots around. The 9 o'clock took a bit of damage. Bomber's third base actually lost a decent number of SCVs. This pylon actually finished at the 12 o'clock, but he's not warping anything in. If you look at the supply counts, he's cannon rushing the 12! Oh my god, White Rod, that's so baller. I'm sorry, that's completely hilarious. Bomber will be able to shut it down, but he forced Bomber to pull all the SCVs off this base. His other bases, except for the 9 o'clock, are all looking pretty low. And 3 o'clock? What?
Or 9 o'clock.
And over at 9 o'clock, where all of his workers are, you can see the mules have almost completely mined out this expansion, and Zealots are all over it. Bomber's actually taking quite a bit of economic damage right now. So, White Raw might not be quite out of it yet, as he has Nexus everywhere. And 3 of these bases of Bomber are very close to mining out. So we are going to hit a pretty big drop in the income for Bomber in the next few moments. White Rod just has to make it through one more engagement. Then he'll actually be ahead again. But that last engagement by Bomber, those EMPs were so scary. Both players are back at 200. Bomber's pushing across the map. There's Archons in the mix this time. Of course, EMPs only take off 100 health from low. Here comes the EMPs. He's cloaking up. There goes the EMPs all over a lot of the units. Some of those kind of missed this time, though. So White Raw is actually able to power down a lot of these Vikings using the Archons. A little bit unconventional, but doing a good amount of damage. But the Colossus were standing right in the front, going down to the Marauders. So just a poor control there from White Raw. He had a really good opportunity. The rest of his forces are getting overwhelmed, but some more Colossus coming in to support. White Raw, if you can survive for a few more minutes, you're still in this game. Just keep hanging on, be tenacious. There's a nuke on the way for Bomber. But Bomber pulling very far ahead in supply, just remacking so quickly because of these mules.
Nuke on the third of White Raw. It's gonna land! Here it comes! Touchdown! And at the same time, Bomber is also eliminated the expansion at the 3 o'clock, so really doing an excellent job of shutting down a lot of the economy of White Raw. After winning that engagement, one of the things that I wanted to point out was that in that last engagement, Bomber actually pulled all of his forces back and just let his Vikings start picking or chipping away at the Colossus, and once those Colossus went down, the rest of the forces of Bomber made it up, and more Zealots again
Bomber.
here at the 9 o'clock.
I mean, if you look in the main of Bomber, he's got a couple mineral patches. His natural is almost completely out. His 3rd is getting there. His 12 o'clock is close to out. His 9 is close to out. Bomber only has a few minutes of economy left in this game. And he's trying to expand over here to the bottom left-hand portion of the map. Is he going to Planetary Fortress rush this? Or if you make this into a Planetary Fortress, you're a baller.
No, he is going to Planetary Fortress.
Oh, there we go. Planetary
White
Fortress.
Raw's going to show up, though.
But I mean,
call nuke.
Where is it?
It's right on top of this expansion. He's trying to catch the army, but White Raw will be able to react in time this time around, so it'll get a probe kill.
There was another nuke
poor probe had
somewhere
no hope.
else. Looking around trying to find it, but it doesn't look like he might have canceled it. But you can see he is producing 2 nukes now. The big issue is Bomber's running out of money very quickly. His income is going to fall off in just a matter of moments, and then he's going to be stuck on this stockpile. While White Raw is still getting income, so White Raw, he just has to sit back and defend at this point. Bomber is going to be under a lot of pressure to take out White Raw here, but he's sitting up in a nice defensive position. Bomber's moving in to try and finish this, but he's realizing that he's in quite a bit of trouble without an expansion. He has an orbital command up at the top right, but there's no units on it yet. Where's the nuke?
On top of all of these cannons, very close to the army of White Raw. This nuke will be able to take out all of these cannons, and that will secure a lot of space for Bomber to actually be able to move up.
Yeah, that actually made it so that White Raw couldn't leave his base while he was killing the Nexus down here at 6 o'clock. So it was actually a great job with that nuke, zoning out the army of White Raw a bit while he kills other things. Oh my god, there's so many nukes over here at the 3rd base of White Raw. I'm having to work so hard to find all of these. There are quite a few probes here, and it's directly on top of the Nexus. Oh, there goes a bunch of them. White Raw still has 50 workers. There is going to be a really big engagement here between the 2 armies. White Raw got surrounded very nicely by Bomber, though. Bomber has Vikings on every side. Marauders coming in, getting a great concave, and doing a good job against this army. These Vikings probably need to land, though, because of these Zealots. These Marauders are getting cut down by these excellently upgraded Zealots. White Raw barely holding on still, and Bomber's just setting up more and more expansions in the top right. So he's refusing to run out of money, and this game is completely insane.
Yeah, Bomber is now going to be going maximum Terran here. It's going to just start dropping all over the place. Drop going on in the main base right now, but it will be shut down by White Raw almost instantly. Not even able to kill the Twilight Council. Twilight Council there with 10 health, now recharging shields. Blink is going to be able to take out one of the medevacs, but not the last one there. Ooh. And these Marauders will be able to unload here on this 3rd expansion and pick off another lonely probe.
There's Zealots in the top right throw, catching a lot of these SCVs while they're transferring to the new expansions of Bomber. He's down to 24 workers. So many mules right on top of the Zealots. The bio will be able to save them from the Zealots, though. Good job there by Bomber. He just has so many mules because he's been spamming command centers when he was maxed out. This is completely ridiculous. Bomber is still ahead by 40 supply, but if you look at his resources, he's effectively out of his stockpile. He was not able to remax after that last big engagement. So White Raw, if he keeps making good use of his units with the great upgrades, he still can pull in this, but he needs to try and shut down some of the economy that's going on in the top right-hand corner of the map. Here comes another nuke over in the bottom left-hand natural. There's not much here, but he will be able to force White Raw to stop mining while this is going on. And White Raw is going to go for the counter in the top right. These 2 players are all over the map right now. It's hard to say who's going to win. Bomber is still slightly ahead, but he's losing all of his economy right now. Bomber's trying to push in on White Raw's only economy at the same time, so we basically have a base race going on here in the 4th game of this show match. Both players desperately trying to take out the other players' last mining bases, and then it will come down to who can be more cost efficient. And if it comes down to a micro war between these 2 players, I have absolutely no idea who would win that.
Yeah, and as far as cost efficiency is concerned, generally you would assume that the Protoss army would be as both these armies are completely upgraded right now. Of course, the shields of White Raw only a level 1, but you generally don't see the shield upgrade going very high at all anyway. So White Raw going to be taking the expansion here at the 3 o'clock once again, and if you look at the top right main, Bomber's got the mining all wrong here.
Wow, that's actually really tricky by Bomber. Both players taking each other's expansions that they just killed, expanding on the corpse, so to speak. But there's so many mules on the field. 13 for Bomber. Look at his income. Oh my god. That is completely ridiculous. He's going to blink right on top of several of the ghosts. Not quite able to take those out in time. EMP's going off everywhere. These Colossus are in horrible position. Getting focused down by the Marauders. White Raw getting caught completely off guard by Bomber in the center of the map. Loses his whole army. He's down to 35 supply. White Raw, you came so close to pulling this game back, but Bomber overpowering him in the last couple of moments. The production tab is completely empty for White Raw, and Bomber's sitting at 165 supply, so it looks like Bomber's actually going to 4-0 White Raw. Are you serious?
Wow. I am shocked. I mean, there were times at that point where I thought White Raw really had a fighting chance. I mean, he had a fighting chance throughout that game, but Bomber is just all over the map, and wow, I can't even form a proper sentence.
Okay, so before people leave, we do have more games because of the mix-up that we had. So that last game was completely epic, and we have possibly 7 more because of what happened with the mix-up of the replays. We do have some bonus footage, so to speak, from White Raw and Bomber, and some more completely amazing games. So don't go away just yet. Once again, check out Nation Voice, nationvoice.com. But give us a second to save this VOD, and we have more games for you still. And after that last game, I really, really want to see those.
Me too.
So